All right, part 4. This time we're on Temple of the Silent Storm, the first post-launch released map for Conquest. Pretty cool map. I'm starting here as well inside one of the airships just to demonstrate this is all playable terrain that you can hang around on, but it means nothing for the game type because, of course, these are just the spawn areas, and once you go through the teleporters, you'll be down on the map. So this is actually a map that's gone through quite a lot of change over the years. In particular, a very big difference with the large central chamber, which used to be full of water. You used to be able to do all kinds of cheesy things where your underwater build was legitimately something to think about because you drop into that pool most games. So yeah, let's start off, I guess. And the first thing to note, which isn't really on the marker pack, but is the premise of like a side gate, a place to leave to not be spawn camped. It's honestly not that good on this map, but on the red team here, instead of just wandering off the plateau in front immediately, you guys should be aware that you can come behind. And none of this terrain is really legitimate play space, but you see this here that you drop down? Once you make this drop, you're in the map, right? And from here you drop down again. And this is actually an alternate way in. Now, the truth is, if you're being spawn camped, people will generally spawn camp from here so that they can watch the top ledge. This is where you teleport as a part of the airship. And they'll also be watching underneath. And your only route is here. Now, that is similar on the other team. I'll just quickly show that. So, the blue airship here. You've got this plateau. The standard way into the map there. And then around the back, you do have a separate entrance. I've got line of sight spots here for you guys. Which you can use these to kite down, like particularly on this side you can kite down and hide around this corner and hope that you'll shake aggro. There is a sense, there's not much of this in the game, but there is a sense of if you're dying, dragging someone as far away from meaningful objectives as possible before you finally go down, so they really have to commit to it, and that's kind of a place where you can sort of do that. But yeah, again, you spawn camp, you're generally going to stand in a place like this so that you have visibility underneath and on top. And so, yeah, that's kind of the entrance to the map. Let's return to the red team here. And I will show you guys what markers I've got. Now, this map, they've really cleaned up a lot. And it's very, very simple, sort of sheer walls. And there's not as much kiting as the original trilogy. But there is a lot of fun stuff that I guess I will go into. So, first of all, the line of sight with the alternate entrance. Here as well, I've got a line of sight marker because this is something you will commonly use running around here, like so. I'm picking your option to come up. Obviously, the ability to climb on these crates and up here should be very well known. I haven't marked that, but you can climb up this. Obviously, this is the fastest route to stillness if you have been at mid. So that's nice. Following the perimeter along. We obviously have under the ramp here. And again, good line of sight spot. Good place to kite around. And especially from a class like with Jaunt or whatever, you can port on top of yourself and go back down. Same here as well. When you go underneath, you can port on top. You can also port onto the bridges. That's a little bit out of scope of the pack. Over to the node itself. This brazier, I think maybe you can climb on. I don't have it marked because I've never realistically used it. And I don't really know. I have no muscle memory of how to do it. But I think it is possible to climb onto that. There you go. So we just climbed on it here. So this is actually a pretty good location. You can teleport off, but not back onto it. And it is a pretty good spot, to be honest. You can see people, and especially standing on the rim there, you can hit a lot of melee aggression. The thing is, they will run past you, and as soon as they're in the room, there's not much other practical application for it. But in the room here, I don't know. If you asked 50 different PvPers what their favorite like side node is, I think you'd get a lot of different responses and flavors. Some people really like the flat, open ones, like you find on Kylo, Colosseum. Other people like me really like the forest style. Some people loathe like the Skyhammer style, which is a lot like forest, really, where there's a lot of very easy kiting that you can do. This is kind of like a middle ground, really, this node. There is some kiting you can do, but nothing too prominent. So, first of all, you have the ramp that you can climb up here. There's not much that you can really do that's safe up here, to be honest. I most often find myself climbing on these, where you can be stolen onto, you can be teleported onto and stuff, and you can even be hit with melee, just simple jumps, right? So it's really not that safe, but it can throw people off a little bit, and it can do something for you. There is also, over here, you can do the banana jump to come around to this area, and I don't think you can banana jump over there. But again, the actual, how worthwhile this is, I don't know, not very. That one's no valid path. Maybe version 1.2 I can actually put an airship there. But yeah, you also have very commonly, you'll find people come to these locations. These are excellent. Usually if you're getting aggressed, you're going to be outnumbered. They're going to be coming from this or this, meaning that places back here are the best to save your life because you're not kiting into new aggro. You got this area, and then obviously the pillar as well. You can run in little circles around. It is not uncommon to see a spellbreaker or whatever hiding in these locations whatsoever. You got the snow pile there as well, but it's still valid. And then, of course, the other ramp you can climb up, do the same similar jump. Now, one thing I do utilize quite a lot is over here on these barrels. You can climb up to this alternate entrance to the nodes on the barrels here. And it's really not that hard. I've got one flag at the bottom to show where you can start. And in 2 jumps, you should be at, well, 3 jumps. 2 jumps to the top of the barrel. And then the 3rd jump is obviously you're up the top. So, yeah, you can climb up the barrels there. And I think that this might be a drop spot as well. No, this isn't. They removed this, didn't they? This used to have collision and was a cool drop spot. But I'm pretty sure you can't on the bear anymore. Let me just demonstrate that 100%. I don't think you can land on the bear anymore. I'm like 99% confident you can't land on the bear. So yeah, and that's pretty much the node done. There's nothing too crazy there. That I know about anyway, or that I see people ever really using here. And, you know, in a lot of ways, it's enough. Coming around here, there is some very exciting stuff, though. In particular, no ports. You'll notice I haven't really shown you any no ports yet, because the map is very well swept and cleaned of those. There is one excellent one here, though, that I use very frequently. You just climb up on this. Now, the way that this works is you can still be... So, wait. If you're standing here, they will still steal to you. They won't land directly on your position. But if you're up here, it's like right on the corner there. It's 100% pure. You're fully off the nav mesh. You do need to jump. You can't just hold W. You can get right round on the corner there. I'm failing this so miserably. But yeah, this is a really nice location when you're bailing out. A pretty stealthy spot as well, in that people that are kiting out after they've having capped the nodes, they'll often have their camera and they'll be looking here to make sure. And then as they run through, they'll take like a glance down here. But quite often, if you're up on that spot, just you're a little bit higher up, they won't actually know. So this is a really nice hiding place that you can then re-engage from. Also, if somebody does manage to follow you up here, and you have some kind of extra movement, you can get straight up on top of this over here as well, and you can do some great kiting there. So I really like that. That's very useful. Then also there's this area, which I use all the time as well, kind of a stealthy spot too. So first of all, you can just jump across and straight away you're off the nav mesh, which is nice. People won't be able to steal onto you. People will follow you very frequently here though. So you can come around here. So you've got 2 choices. You can walk around, or I tend to actually jump that in-game. You make the jump around, or you can kind of stagger a couple of jumps and go through. So it's up to you, whichever one you feel more comfortable with, or you can change it as you go. But when you're on the other side, people really start struggling to follow, and you can even come up here and all the way around to this this amber flag here as well. You can't really go anywhere from here. I've never really tested leaps and stuff over there. But yeah, you can use this. Now, this spot is really nice. Very frequently I've because people don't really think of you here, so you can stand here and just sort of burst someone who's unaware, who isn't looking aggressively high enough. And yeah, that's a nice little trick. It's a good place to watch over for stillness as well. Generally this is some of the most fun monkeying around you can do really on this map. Continue with the perimeter. It's kind of a weird map to talk about. Again, there's lots of stuff, but all of this is plastered with nav mesh. All of it is perfectly smooth and free and easy. This is obviously a great line of sight, though. You can kite around here, and you can do all kinds of little things while you're fighting over stillness. If you're delaying stillness, you're often going to find that you're messing around with this stuff. If this is your spawn, you can use these to, shake pressure from people coming that way, or vice versa. Moving along, you got all of this again though, but it's all invisible, walled in, and it's also, there's no markers here whatsoever. There's not really very much to talk about. Coming around on this side, you got the same idea. You can LOS under this, port up onto the bridge if you like, and you've got no equivalent, no port spot. But you used to be able to stand on this. I guess you can't anymore. And that would explain why I don't have a marker there. You used to be able to stand on this, and it was really kind of useful. But anyway, coming over here, this is kind of your same kite area. It's very clear. It's very open, very barren. And There's not much going on, but there is something of a drop spot here. If you're kiting up to the top, you can just land on this, and quite often people will overshoot, they'll fall off. And this, again, is one of those locations where you can be hit, you can be attacked, but if you throw some jumps into whatever you're doing, it's kind of nice. You can't jump to the other pillars with conventional builds. With leaps, you can figure it out. You'd need like a good weapon swap at the right time and all that stuff. And then from this, you can start doing cheesier stuff as well, but we don't have to talk about that. And that's about it, really, on this node. I don't know anything else. I don't know if there's any no valid paths on some of these rocks or anything. It seems you'll notice how like our feet clip into most of this stuff, right? It's just because the devs have refined as much of it as they possibly can. It's pretty open. Mostly what you're just going to do is hide around up here and utilize this drop spot. So yeah, but over here on the bridge, there's some nice stuff. I use these a lot, so you can still be stolen onto here, and you can still eat a lot of pressure, but people have to jump and they have to mess, and if you position rightly, quite often they'll go over the side. So these are sort of like semi-safe spots, but they're as good as you get, really. So you can go from one to the other, and this one's probably the better one because the only way really onto this is from coming towards the stairs. So quite often as I'm bailing out of my 1v1 here, I'll chain along these maybe, and quite often I die on these spots as well, to be honest. I wish they were slightly better, but the map's really got a lot of it refined away, as far as I anyway have understanding and knowledge of. So yeah, continuing with the perimeter, we're now at the other spawn. You've got the lower area. You can do some line of sight in down there. Similar situation here, where if you're trying to get to stillness, you can use the crates and climb up very quickly. Very, very symmetrical, nice map, to be honest. You can port up. Even very low-range blinks like Jaunt there do allow you to move up there. Then we've got this. So this is where the old Ferocity buff used to be. Ferocity we all appreciate as crit damage nowadays, but way back when, Ferocity, the attribute, didn't even exist. So they're basically redundant areas of the map now, but if you stand in very particular areas, they are off the nav mesh grid. So I've got an airship here marking that for you guys. Realistically, it's not great because what you do by coming here, so this is obvious why it's off the grid, right? But what you do by coming here is you kind of give yourself no outs anymore. But it's a nice spot, I suppose, in some ways. If you are caught in a fight, maybe you've been spawn camping and they've actually managed to reverse it on you, if you utilize your stealth and just quickly come here, it's actually really frustrating for the guards, the revs, the thieves to follow this, because they can't immediately teleport to you up on the podium. The other side is nowhere near as useful as that, by the way, but we'll show that in a second. Coming up here, obviously, you can kite around here, and I love using this. Staying up, but being largely out of sight, I end up taking a lot of fights here. Obviously, when you fall down, you can port up. Obviously, this is a good route to stillness. Here, this is interesting in that it's actually port legal, this bar in the middle, once you're on it, right? So you can move around on that. So this is not as safe as you might think it is, but obviously it's somewhat useful. And then the roof here, this is its own map, right? So you can play around on the roof a ton. If you're expecting to blink from the bridge onto the roof, you can't, right? So taking team fight pressure and stuff while standing up here is very, very useful and worthwhile. There's also two, I don't have these on the marker pack, but there's two reasonably nice drop spots here. This is one. And then the other one is onto this. So if you're fighting on the roof, if you're a Scourge and you've taken some... And by the way, this is no valid path, this entire rock here. So you're already safe as soon as you come here. So if you're a Scourge and you're taking the fight up here, you can shake your aggro off. And if you land on this, it's actually pretty good. Because your aggressors fall down. The thing is, it's still meleeable. So, you know, don't expect it to save you super hardcore. This one's also off the grid, but it's more precise where you have to stand. So it becomes an amber airship. So yeah, the other component of mids, well, no, there's actually a couple more. So coming up again, another thing you can do if you're a Deadeye or whatever, you can actually jump into the flames, the fires. These are on their own meshes, so you can't be ported to, obviously, here. These are pretty nice. You get the no line of sight and stuff as well. You know, if you want to play a Sikkim Soul Beast or something, this can be a fun location to come to, and it's symmetrical, so that's good. Over here, you have line of sight opportunities in here. You find lots of players come into this. These generally don't feel that safe, I have to say. They can be a bit of a death trap if you're not very careful because you can get stuck in them. And similar on the other side, you've got these rooms. There's not much special you can do once you're in them. However, what's kind of cool about the rooms is how you flirt with the entrances to them. So for this one, when you're at the door, you can actually jump around here. And this is a really good spot to come to. If the person messes up the jump, right, and falls down here while aggressing you, there's actually no way up all the way along here. It just doesn't exist, right? So if they mess up that jump, what they have to do is come all the way back up and around, all the way through, and then try again. And if they mess the jump up again, I mean, so it's a really excellent spot, that. There are other opportunities too, and I would recommend this for anyone... you know, who's got the short bow or whatever, to actually just bypass it or just port to the very top and drop down from the very top. That's the best counter to that. And on the other side, there's a similar situation going on with these slopes here. So quite often you'll find I do this. I'm at a mid-fight, and you can pull someone along here, and you can drag them all the way up. And again, it's one of the... And then what you're going to do is a corner jump inside. Now, if they mess up the corner jump, they land here, where they have the choice of coming all the way around and doing all of this again, or they have the choice of coming all the way around over here and up this staircase to get back in. So this little jump here, good thing to practice, because if you can nail that in fights, it kind of unlocks this whole thing. And I've got markers. This is where if I had roots on the pack, I would show the route, you know, because that's what they're trying to do, really. It's all the same kind of kiting idea. That's all I really know for mid on this map. The other thing I would note, though, is, like, rocket boots and stuff. In fact, I think only rocket boots. If you stand exactly where I am right now... Well, let's see. Well, I messed it up slightly. But with rocket boots, you can go all over the actual gate. You know, the midpoint's called the gate, but it's talking about that feature of the map there. And, yeah, you can actually... you can get on the gate. And that's an excellent location just for free pressure and hazing and stuff. I've actually been tempted to play a core NG with like mortar and grenade kit and stuff just for this map to have fun up there. Utilizing rocket boots is a fun thing you can do, but out of the scope of the pack. I don't know why I keep talking about stuff that's out of scope. Over here, so we've got the other ferocity area. So you got these benches, right? Now each bench does have a legit no valid path. Each of them does, but the only one that's really worthwhile and consistent and worth a damn is this one here, where you really want to trigger it, you want to make sure you're as on the map as possible, if you will, and slightly to the left. What you don't want to be is too close to the rest of the map, right? So you don't want to be too close to any of the edges of the bench. You want to be kind of central to the bench, slightly to the left, and you're safe here. So I only really have that in the odds of interest of symmetry, considering the very easy one on the other side. So yeah, just kind of a loop around the outside of Temple. That's basically all the stuff I know. Now let's talk about middle itself, where we have a couple of things. So if you're dropping down this hole, and only on this hole, there is this asset here, this icy block. This is all... So how do I explain why this is useful? Each of these ledges is obviously its own nav mesh, but within this one... So, you know, if I'm standing over here, I can jaunt to the other side of here, right? But within this one, this is no valid port to its own ledge, right? Does that make sense? So, if you're kiting, and you often will be as you come down these, this is a tool. Obviously, every single ledge you fall down, you should try to bait the other person to fall while you stay up. You should act like you're jumping off, but try and retain your position. And that's not really something the marker pack can show. But yeah, so this is handy. And you actually get a little bit more space here as well. There's no equivalent that I know of on the other hole. Speaking of the main ramp down as well, here, you do have a couple of things. So this is no valid path, and you can stand here. This is good if you're trying to kite out of mid. And then this is a red flag. This is actually really difficult to do in combat and in-game because the camera is so closed in and not so good. But this is like a phenomenal way of shaking aggro. This is so useful if you can get it. I unfortunately don't really have the muscle memory for it. And the problem is you're going to hit your head in a lot of situations. If you can practice that, people can't port up to you when you're up there. And they're really, and even like range pressure, they'll hit the lip a lot. You know, if a cluster bomb's coming towards you and stuff. It's a really nice spot. This is also a spot I tend to find players who have rage quit coming AFK. so they don't get reported. They look like they're active on the map, even though they're not. So yeah, now coming down into... Wait. Was this a location? It can't be, right? Otherwise, I would have had it marked. This can't be a location. Yeah. So coming into here, you've got under the bridge. Now, I've got 2 line of sight things. Now, this is actually really, really useful. And if you're ever going to interrupt tranquility and you're coming from this route, I really recommend you cover the start of your walk with the stealth, okay? And then you get under the bridge. Because what you can actually do is walk all the way along under the bridge. Have your camera collision settings set to really tolerable. Apparently you lose frames for it, but it's good. Because you can do stuff like this. And your opponent won't actually see you. Now, those of you who really know me will know I used to PvP on a character with only 3 letters. And on a character like that, and if you don't rep a guild as well, so the tag goes away, there's a very low chance that people will even see your nameplate if you like stand central to this. Back then, this particular bridge wasn't here anyway, but the principle is the same. And people genuinely won't see you until you get all the way next to them. And this is good because any good player who's capping Trank, when they see that you're coming, they're going to stop and they're going to start fighting straight away. I mean, bad players will let you get all the way up and get the jump on them and interrupt anyway, right? They might think they've got a chance or whatnot. But if you can go underneath, this is really, really nice because you can pop out at the last second and you can aggress people. And also, as you're fleeing, let's say a big fight has erupted here. This is also a useful way to enter because people won't know that a plus is coming in until it's too late, right? If you're really distracted with a fight here and you're snapping the odd glance back, coming under the bridge is worthwhile. And obviously playing around with all these pillars and things as well, by the way. I end up taking a lot of fights around these pillars and around these boxes. And just getting used to fighting in this area. All the terrain's really fun. I really like this room, to be honest. And then lastly, you've got 2 side areas. So these can be TP'd onto... Wait, hold on. Is this one completely off the nav mesh? Which one... There are some positions where you will be stolen onto up in locations like this, I'm pretty sure. You can definitely port off of them. So maybe it's just that they're one way, right? But yeah, these are really good spots. So easy, no valid path. And this one over here as well. If I want no port, I tend to come up to this one. Which you climb up to on the little rock here. Oh, blatantly dev intended, by the way. All this stuff. Blatantly dev intended. And it's very, very nice. There's also this sneaky little route up here. So if you see someone's on this, they'll come up here. You can come up here and sort of bypass things. That's really handy to know. I should mark that off as well. But yeah, so basically, this I would use for no valid path. This one's stronger for kiting because there isn't that bypass, right? There isn't a way up. And also it's stronger for kiting because from this one, you can very reasonably jump to this. And this spot is godly. Really, you're going to want super speed or a jump dodge in combat to do that. But this is genuinely a really, really, really good position. And the reason for that is because you've got kind of unparalleled haze potential. You force people to go behind this or under the bridge or whatever. And so, yeah, I've taken 1v2s here many times just because you are so safe. And it depends, obviously, on what you're against. But you're very safe and comfortable with these locations. Yeah, all you got to do is watch some of the Game of the Day videos and you'll see this stuff being utilized a lot. You can obviously play with more of them and with leaps you can even go over there, but it's redundant. What's the point? There's no reason to come all the way along and do all that stuff. So that's all I really know here. And by here, I actually mean that's the whole map. As far as the spots I utilized, that's them. There's probably plenty more to talk about. If you guys want to share them, please do feel free. I'd love to hear it. And I will explain more marker stuff in the next... production, which will be... So then we had a long break and there weren't any new maps. I think Spirit Watch was technically the next map, but I haven't done that because it's not in ranked and I don't know much about that map. So there won't be a Spirit Watch video. I think after that Skyhammer was next. I can't remember which order it was, but so I'll see you next time for Skyhammer, which is also very, very simple. You know, the devs are really getting a grip on it by then. So cheers, guys. I'll see you there.